And in its first London screening, which was in person in Shoreditch, there were people who came up to me crying, and during the screening there was a woman laughing at my demise, because on the screen you see a woman who's having a panic attack, who's depressed and suicidal, and someone in the background
Is laughing.
was laughing. And I said, but I feel like I'm dying. And she said, are you telling me that I'm not doing my job properly? I'm telling you, you're not dying. Shut the fuck up.
That's what she said?
That's what she said to me in the midst of me fearing for my life, like feeling like dying, also wishing that I was dead so I wasn't enduring this pain.
Hello and welcome to Ego is Here. Today I'm joined by Yasmine Alice, known for her bold take on emotional well-being. She's an actress, writer, and producer of the award-winning film Anxious. And when I say anxious, it resonates deeply with me because of my chronic anxiety, and we'll talk about that later.
Mm-hmm.
But the first thing that I wanted to ask you was, you trained and worked as a lawyer before stepping into acting and filmmaking. What made you change paths?
Gosh, this is a question that I get a lot, and it's a very interesting story, actually. I had never done acting.
Oh,
Not even like in school. I wasn't in the theater club or drama club. I've always been an extrovert, and I loved the attention, and I would perform for family members and suddenly show up in the living room and just do some operatic singing. But yeah, I had very good grades, and I thought, okay, I'm going to study medicine or law. Like, what else do people do? Because I didn't have any interest. And personally, I don't think you should let 18, 19-year-olds make lifetime decisions.
yeah.
Yeah, if I'm going, okay, I'm studying law, it doesn't mean that I'm going to spend the rest of my 60, 70, I don't know, 50-year long career doing exactly that. So I studied law, qualified, went into, London in a corporate law firm. And it was so monotonous. And I absolutely hated every single day going into the firm, doing the exact same thing with the same people. I felt pressured and blocked. And I didn't know that I was a creative. I didn't know that I was an artist.
At that time, yeah.
I spent my whole childhood, making cartoons and writing stories. I have comic books. Like, they are so good. It's surprisingly good. Just painting, because my mom's a portrait artist. I would go into her studio, do loads of paintings. I've always been a storyteller. It's just I didn't know how to do that. And the way I got into film and TV was really, really weird. So I went to a shopping center, and there was a green screen, and they were promoting Sky, which is like a television network company. And they were like, would you like to pretend to be a news anchor?
Oh.
And I was like, okay, what is this? And then I went in front of the green screen, and there was a teleprompter, and I was like, in today's news, da, 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 da. And then I was just reading, and they said, we've recorded it. We'd like to send it to you. They sent it to me. I posted it on Instagram. I kid you not, I had about maybe 200 messages from family and friends. Oh my God, you changed career. You make the most amazing news anchor. This is so amazing. You left law. I'm like,
no, not yet.
I didn't. And then about 2 months after that, I was scouted online to actually become a news reporter.
Wow.
So because I know there are a lot of TV presenters who will maybe like get training and try really hard and go for 100 auditions. This landed on my lap. It was meant to be.
Yeah.
And straight up, I had airtime twice a week on one of the biggest national TV networks as a correspondent. So I was an entertainment news correspondent from UK to Turkey.
Wow.
That's how I started.
Amazing. Amazing. So now, as an artist, what inspires you to create? Where do you usually get your inspiration from?
Yeah. So for me as a producer and writer are two different things. Again, for me as a producer, I'm very much of a creative producer and I encourage my directors and writers and make a lot of suggestions. I'm,
Mm,
I'm very much of the alpha, unfortunately. So if you want to work with me, you need to be prepared to receive a lot of feedback. But for me as a writer, I prefer things based on true stories, a film that gives a social message
mm,
about something that's not been seen before, about a subject matter that's not been handled too often and
mm.
conventionally in film festivals. I
Yeah.
don't want to do guy falls in love with girl
Mhm,
and
mhm.
then he
Same
saved
old
her
stuff.
life,
Yeah.
cliche. I don't want none of that. I tried to do comedy. I don't think I'm a good comedy writer. I would like to hope and say that I'm a good drama writer.
So you wrote and produced the film Anxious, right?
Yes.
That won awards in film festivals. Can you tell us a little bit about the film
Yeah.
and what inspired you to create it?
It was COVID. I wasn't receiving, well, I don't think anyone was receiving a lot of acting opportunities or anything. And I just thought, oh, like I've at this point I've been in feature films, I've been in short films. I was like, let me just write something. And I wrote something and I sent it to a friend of mine who's a director. And he said, Yasmin, this is disgusting. It's the worst thing I've ever read. I hate it when wannabe actors pretend that they're going to be filmmakers. It's not going to go anywhere. And I was like, oh my God, like harsh. Then I sent it to another friend of mine who actually went to film school. And I said, I've got this film. Maybe I just want to do it. I don't know. What do you think? And he said, look, Yasmin, don't get me wrong, but you didn't go to film school. So don't try and like
Mm,
make it in the film industry. Just stick as an actress. And I was like, this is really strange. And at the time, because everybody was quite available, I was sliding into the DMs of some famous executive producers. And most of them replied to me. And I said, look, I just want to have a one on one session on Zoom. Can you
mm.
please tell me about your career? And, give me some advice. And I met a very, very famous top Hollywood producer, whose name I shall not mention because she actually funded the film.
Oh,
And she said to me, Yasmin, just go out and do it. Fuck all these people that are telling you XYZ. And even if it's not a good film, do you think that I don't know, if you look at the most famous
okay.
Oscar winning directors and writers, was their first film amazing?
No, no, no,
No.
no.
They were doing dodgy films as well with low budgets. So Anxious was exactly that. But surprisingly, not only did it go to a lot of film festivals, it was televised in the UK in quite a few local TV channels. It became a part of a curriculum in a university in America. I don't know. So some people are studying the film.
Yeah.
It is technically horrendously shot.
It's
um,
not. I saw it. It's not. It's not.
Thank you. But
Not
like there's a lot of technical like filmmaking 101 problems with the film, but because it's experimental and somewhat art house, it was kind of acceptable. It didn't go to any BAFTA or Oscar qualifying film festivals, obviously, because of the technical problems. But I think it resonated with people. And in its first London screening, which was in person in Shoreditch, there were people who came up to me crying, and during the screening, there was a woman laughing at my demise because on the screen you see a woman who's having a panic attack, who's depressed and suicidal, and someone in the background
It's laughing.
was laughing. And I'm like, this is amazing that I can trigger various emotions in people.
Yeah. 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 Tell us about the film.
Tell
What
us about the
is
film.
it?
Okay. Um, Gosh, it's so long ago. It's like 5, 6 years ago I wrote this, but it's about a woman
Mm-hmm.
who deals with anxiety. She's an influencer and she's always like, doing these selfies and she's like, my life is amazing, hashtag perfect, hashtag winning. But actually, deep inside, she's really, really struggling. She's
Mm.
got anxiety, she's got panic attacks, she's trying different methods. She's, finding these people on YouTube, doing EFT. She's like doing breathing techniques and nothing works. So she resorts to abusing medicine,
Mm.
drugs and alcohol, and maybe eating a lot. She orders pizza. She's eating popcorn in the middle of the day. That kind of thing. So it's
Yeah.
the journey of a woman dealing with anxiety during COVID, and then post COVID, she meets up with her friends and she realizes that she can't even open up to people
Oh,
and tell people that she has this because there's so much stigma around mental health.
there
How
is.
can you tell someone that you A, have anxiety, B, you're using maybe some antidepressant medication,
Mhm.
and people are going to be like, "Oh my god, what's wrong with you?"
Yeah, are you
Eh?
crazy?
Ew.
Yeah, yeah.
That was what I wanted to portray with the film.
But you've spoken about being hospitalized for anxiety. So, how did those experiences change your perspective on mental health and
Mhm.
yourself?
Yeah. Um, I had never known about mental health until I had my first panic attack.
Hmm.
Um, I was watching a documentary about African tribes, and I somehow, like, I was calm, I was just resting, and I just felt my heart, and I was like, this is weird. And it wasn't like I was in a triggering moment. I wasn't in a crowded space. I was just watching a documentary, and the documentary was quite nice actually. It's like families and tribes eating, partying. So then I was like, okay, my heart is not, slowing down.
Yeah.
What's going on? I called my ex-boyfriend at the time. I said, this is happening. Is it possible that somehow I r- drank something which had drugs in it?
Mhm, mhm.
I was checking the orange juice that I drank for breakfast. I was like, does this have drugs in it? Then I called the ambulance. Ambulance came and they were like, damn, her heart rate is 250 BPM.
Wow.
That's abnormal. So as an athlete, you can maybe be around 180.
Mhm,
250 is abnormal. So I was in the back of the ambulance being taken to the hospital, and I was telling the lady that works there, and the emergency person, I said, I think I'm dying. And she said, you're not dying. And I said, but I feel like I'm dying. And she said, are you telling me that I'm not doing my job properly? I'm telling you, you're not dying. Shut the fuck up.
that's what she
And
said?
that's what she said to me in the midst of me fearing for my life, like feeling like dying, also wishing that I was dead so I wasn't enduring this pain.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Instead of showing me compassion, explaining to me that it is only a panic attack, it's only in my head, she
Yeah.
told me to shut the fuck up. And then I was taken to the hospital. I waited there 3 hours in the corridor and my heart rate didn't slow down. When they finally put me into the bedroom, hooked me up to machines, they couldn't slow my heart rate down still. They started to get worried and they just gave me a pill,
Mm,
which made me a bit sleepy. And by which point, my ex boyfriend at the time was really far away. He drove all the way down to London to be with me and take me home.
yeah.
Now, I was in this state not knowing what was going on. Not a single person in the hospital in the emergency said to me that I was having a panic attack. And I'm like, what is going on? No answer. This is the point of which my life changed and I have dedicated my life. I've done YouTube series, documentary
Mhm.
series, films, everything about
Raising awareness.
raising awareness by explaining to people, normalizing
Mhm.
mental health problems. Because so
Yeah,
many people, like, I don't want anyone else in the world to experience what I experienced.
yeah. Well, I've been in the hospital for the same reason, so I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's devastating. So, mental health issues like anxiety and depression are on the rise, as we
Yeah.
say. What do you hope people take away from Anxious?
Gosh, I hope people watch the film, and if they had never had mental health issues, that they know that sometimes, like, even your closest friends who might be smiling, or
Mm,
your colleagues that are coming to work and everything seems fine,
yeah,
maybe just ask them if everything is okay or not.
yeah. Maybe ask them twice, huh?
Ask them twice, exactly what I was gonna say, and
Yeah,
you took it out of my word,
yeah.
my mouth, and to normalize it. It's completely normal. If
Yeah.
your arm can ache, if you can have a cold, if you can have ear blockage, you can
Mhm.
also have mental health disorders, and that's
Exactly, it's the
completely
same
fine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, what is the truest thing acting has taught you about yourself?
This is gonna get dark. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Always ready.
I was watching a series by a psychiatrist, and apparently she used to be an actress, and she was talking about how acting is a way for people who perhaps didn't receive sufficient amount of love in
Mm.
in the early stages of their life, seeking acceptance.
I couldn't agree
Um,
more. Yeah.
and that hit me so hard. I
Mm.
cried for 2 hours, and at that moment, I said, "I'm giving up on acting." And the moment I said that, the jobs were just raining on me because I erased the desperate energy. I had so much desperate energy of, please, I want to be chosen. And
Oh,
you get trickles of hope. You're auditioning 20 times and you get one job, and you're putting all of these hours studying a script, and then you have callbacks, and then you have chemistry tests. You're meeting the director, you're meeting the producers. They're like, "Oh my God, you're amazing. We love you. We love you." Ah, sorry, we went for
yeah.
the girl who's more famous with the bigger boobs.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
So we're in this kind of phony industry where everybody is extremely competitive, unfriendly, unhelpful, kind of just like, n- elbowing each other to the front so that they can have this stage and be like, I have been accepted. And then what? You've
Yeah,
been
that
accepted. Congratulations. You're
mm.
going to get a bit more money than me. And that's it. You're still not going to be receiving true love. That's what I discovered about acting, sadly.
Yasmin, but the thing is, for people like us who suffer from anxiety, being in such a competitive industry, how are you able to navigate through the industry and manage your emotions
Yeah,
when it's all the time about rejection and competition?
yeah. I'm very happy to say that I don't suffer from anxiety anymore.
Mm.
I did a whole series about this on YouTube that it went viral. It had millions and millions of views. People would message me every single day, like being like, "How did you do it? How did you do it?" Um, And the one thing that I kept repeating on every single episode of those series is that anxiety is temporary. I don't care if you had it since birth. I don't care if you had it for 10 years. I don't care if you have 10 panic attacks a day. I am the biggest fighter in trying to tell people that it's temporary, that you have the power so that people start believing it, and
Mm.
then they find a solution. I think if you have anxiety and if you work in the film industry, you're kind of in this hamster wheel,
Mm.
and anxiety is triggering it tenfold. You need to have extremely thick skin to make it as an actress, because
Yes.
unless you're an extremely talented human who's been to RADA, Lambda with United Agents as their agent, and you're just being, spoon fed with a
Yeah.
golden
Yeah.
spoon, these like amazing roles, because I don't know, you're in the same agency as the next A list. So they go, okay, we give this person the small role. And then you go up from there. If you don't have that, forget about it. You're going to be trying for 10, 15 years, like I am. And that requires so much determination and strength that if you've got anxiety, good luck to you. That's what I would say. So the number one goal is to beat anxiety.
Yeah. But how are you able to beat it? Like you say, it's temporary, but how
Mm.
were you able?
Yeah, I've dedicated my whole life full time. I took it as a full time job. I've read so many books, thick like encyclopedias. At one point, I was like, why didn't I study psychiatry? Then I delved into studying like borderline, DID, bipolar. Just I've looked at every single thing, and then I started to work as an interpreter for the NHS, for which I was actually hired to work for mental health cases, therapy cases, psychiatric wards. So I've met patients who are schizophrenic, and I would go into their therapy sessions, and I was the Turkish interpreter. So if, say, there's a psychiatric patient, a permanent patient, who is Turkish and doesn't speak English, and they have to have a therapy session, I
Yes.
would be the bridge between the doctor and the patient. And I've learned a lot about everybody's journeys,
Mm.
their psychoanalysis, and how the psychiatrists were analyzing the patients and how they were reasoning certain behaviors and thought patterns. Um, and that's the point in which where I got triggered the most, because being triggered and having those panic attacks means you're releasing all of this.
Hmm.
And once everything is released and you see the light at the end of the tunnel and you reach the light, and it's pure bliss after that. Because I believe people with anxiety are the strongest people in the world, the most empathetical,
Mm.
the kindest, and the most caring. That's why they have anxiety. So
Yeah,
they just need to learn how to whoop manage and control that kindness and empathy in a different way.
yeah. Well, for me, that time hasn't come yet because I haven't
It
seen
will.
the light at the end of the tunnel. But I want to ask, like, did you find any techniques, any steps to
Yeah.
follow? Because, there's so many people listening to us right now that go through depression, anxiety,
Mhm.
or whatever. And, it's very important for them to have those steps, to try something that
Yeah.
has worked for you.
Yeah. I mean, when my panic attack series were released on YouTube, I would get so many emails and messages from people. And what I have discovered is people are not putting the time and effort into it, because with anxiety comes shame.
Yes.
And with shame comes depression. You
Hmm.
start hating yourself. So people are not actually putting the effort and time into it. If they do, it does work. And they have to do, for example, exercise. People have to go to the gym. Literally, I would go to a spinning class, and when you're doing cardio, my heart rate would increase, and I was like, "Oh my god, is this me exercising or is this a panic attack? Am I dying?" I would look to my left. Okay, there's a 60-year-old woman. If she can spin, I can spin. Okay, there's a 45-year-old man. He looks really fat. If he can spin, I can spin. It was constantly like
Hmm.
pushing myself. You can exercise. You can exercise. Number one, you have to exercise. Two,
Definitely. It works for me also.
yeah, you have to eat healthy.
Mm.
Have to. You need to calculate your macros. You need to look at your protein, calories. And three, forget about alcohol. I was sober for years. If you've got anxiety and you're like, let me just have a glass of wine,
No, no, no.
forget about it.
Anxiety, I mean,
Forget about it. Because
spirals.
depressant.
Mm.
Four, this is very controversial, by the way. And when I did, I think it was the sixth episode of the Panic Attack series, when I talked about this, I received a lot of backlash, and I received a lot of like psychiatrists and therapists saying, "Who the fuck are you to chat about this? Like, you have no qualifications." Meds,
Mm. Yeah.
medication.
Yeah, medication, yeah.
I was for many years on Prozac on the lowest
Me
dose.
too, yeah. I was
Um,
on
Fluoxetine.
the biggest dose.
There you go. It's a lifesaver. I
It
don't
is.
care, because there's so much stigma around meds like SSRIs and beta blockers,
Yeah.
and they're saying, "Oh, it makes you a zombie." It doesn't make you a
No,
zombie.
no, 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 no.
It doesn't. So go talk to a professional. Go talk to a psychiatrist. Save your money. Go do it privately. In the UK, it's like 400, 500 quid an hour. I don't care. Save money. Go find yourself a psychiatrist. Get your medication and sort your life out. No alcohol, sports, good, healthy food. These three things. And then on top of that, I've also done EFT, which I
Mhm.
swear by. EFT is amazing. Breath work, shadow work, all kinds of spiritual nonsense that
Mhm.
you can imagine doing. Like, there are so many interesting things that you can do where you discover even like ancestral trauma, or trauma that you
Yeah,
can't.
yeah, and whatever works for anyone, like, one
Yeah,
thing may not work for you, but something else might.
yeah.
So and for medication, as you said, because 'cause I've tried 3 different, because
Mhm.
that's a problem. Sometimes, it doesn't work, so you have to stop and then start all over again, but yeah, it helped a lot.
It's the worst experience ever. If people don't know, it doesn't mean that you're gonna take one pill, everything's
No,
gonna
no,
be
no,
fine.
no.
First of all, SSRIs, they work after 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. It takes such a long time, and you have to wait, and you're still suffering in that period.
And even
Sometimes
more sometimes,
even more.
even more.
Um, But there was a moment when I was on meds. They put me on beta blockers. I fainted in the underground,
Oh.
hit my head because it didn't affect me well. So then you change to a next one, then you change to a next one. And then finally, when I was using Prozac, which is fluoxetine in the UK, after 2 months, I woke up one day, I looked out the window and I said, "Oh, the sky is so blue. It's so nice." And I was like, "Oh, what is this?" It was weird because the way SSRIs work, if anxious person's serotonin level is here, normal person's serotonin level is here, yours then becomes here.
Yeah,
You have to wait.
you have
Be
to wait.
patient, put the work in, and it's gonna be fixed.
Have a lot of support because you need support, you know?
Debatable, because people get tired of you after a while. If you're constantly like, "I'm having a panic attack, I'm dying, help, I'm anxious, I can't go here, I can't do this."
Well, if you're all the time like that, yeah, but you sure need, people to help you,
Mm.
friends, family. You need the support. It's always important to not feel alone.
Yeah.
Or yeah. So do you think that people today are more open about mental health, or is it still a taboo? And do you feel there's enough information out there?
There isn't enough information out there. I think people are very judgmental towards mental health disorders. Um,
But why? Are they afraid of those people that suffer from mental health issues, or what is it about mental health that terrifies people?
I think we can even go
Maybe it's
back to
contagious or what?
the whole film industry about how mental health is portrayed on screen. Not everybody does as good of a job as Robbie Williams.
Mhm.
Sometimes you have films like Split and Glass, which are amazing films, by the way. I absolutely love them. But then you look at like dissociative identity disorder, and you're thinking this guy is suddenly climbing the walls and killing people. No, actually, I've met someone with dissociative identity disorder, and they're very much internalized and
Mhm.
afraid and childlike at times because
Yeah.
they've been through extreme amounts of abuse as
Mhm.
children, as babies. That's usually where DID comes from. So, it's about the portrayal of mental health issues like, oh, psychotic guy went and killed a lot of people. Or, I don't know, crazy woman went and did XYZ, like all of those things.
Mhm.
I think people with mental health problems and people with aggression and tendency for violence need to be separated.
Yes. 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 Because yeah, definitely. 'Ca- Because we say that there's a lot of information out there, but at the end of the day, you know, we're starting to be afraid of people who have those kind of issues, and it's really bad. So you referred to the interpreter before, another one of your films.
Yeah.
Um, that really touched me deeply. Um, could you share the story with us?
Yeah. So Interpreter is a film that I wrote based on true stories about a woman who works as an interpreter in the UK. She
As you did, exactly right.
exactly like what I did. So she works for the NHS. So her job is to maybe go and tell people that they have not much long to live,
Mhm.
or that they have Alzheimer's, that their meds need to be changed. So we follow the lead lady going into a psychiatric ward, talking to a schizophrenic patient, then going to palliative care and talking to a man whose wife is about to die, and she's the one to deliver
Mhm.
that
The
his wife
news.
is going to die. The message and the morale of the story and the film is the fact that in the UK, you can become an interpreter like this. If it's your mother tongue, you become an interpreter. There's no training and there's no aftercare. So this is how
Mhm.
the film ends. The fact that there's no aftercare for the interpreters,
Yes,
for
yes.
the doctors,
Mhm.
for the patients, because there's a lack of funding for the NHS, and we can't really blame it on doctors, patients, or the interpreters
Yeah.
because there's not enough money.
Mhm.
And the film got distribution on Omeletto, It's a platform that I really like. They have amazing films, and it's a great place to promote your film. So if anybody would like to watch it, they can go to Omeletto and type in The Interpreter. And yeah, I think from the comments, a lot of people were kind of blaming it on the doctors. But also the message of the film is, how is a doctor supposed to console, hug, and give emotional support to the
Mm.
man whose wife is dying when he has 10 other
Other
patients who are
patients,
about to die?
yeah.
He doesn't have time. He doesn't have the mental sanity to do that either.
Mhm.
Can you imagine being around people who are about to die all day, every day?
No, 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 no. I cannot. I mean, they say that those people get used to that, because it's their job.
Mm,
And if they were if they were to get emotionally,
mm.
to interfere emotionally, I don't know how they would be able to do their work
Yeah,
every
exactly.
single day. So, yeah, the film touches on compassion fatigue. Have you experienced this, and how do you cope?
Compassion fatigue. Can you explain what do you mean by that?
Like we see the interpreter, Balma, right?
Mhm.
You know, she's trying to fight her emotions, do her job, but at the same time, she's overwhelmed from empathy and compassion, and she sees those people suffering, but she has to do her job. But at the same time, she is a human being, and she gets emotionally,
Yeah,
involved in the situation. So how can you, you know, um, keep that distance
yeah.
from even a role, as an actress, or in Belma's case as an interpreter?
Yeah, so that was the problem with interpreters, that there is no training, because my father is a doctor and I know how he reacts to death, to his patients. Of course, he cares and he wants them to be okay, but he doesn't dwell on it too much. Plus, he's been a doctor, like he's 73, he's been a doctor all his life.
Yeah.
And when I was working for the NHS, I have seen the way doctors are reacting to things. Okay, they're gonna die. Cool. Next. Like they have to be that way. They have to be methodical and strategic.
Mhm.
And I don't know if they're, maybe storing emotions in the backdrop, or whether if they genuinely just move on to the next thing. But it comes from experience and a lot of training, especially with therapy. I think therapists, psychiatrists, they are trained to be that way. Whereas if you're attending a therapy session, so for
Mhm.
example, when I had one of my patients, and we did 10 sessions of CBT, um, and I think cognitive behavioral therapy was not what she needed. She was desperate to talk about her husband who was beating her up. And then the therapist constantly was like, well, did you do your homework? CBT, CBT. And then she just would be like, ignore the therapist and be like, Yasmin, my husband is this. And then the doctor would be like, please don't talk to the interpreter. Don't have this one-on-one communication. And I would feel responsible to be like, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And then after a while, it gets too much because you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's like someone is unleashing all of
Yeah,
their
yeah, it's overwhelming, yeah.
anxiety,
Exhausting.
negative energy,
Mhm.
trauma onto you.
Mm.
And the therapist is used to it and trained for it. Whereas the interpreter is like, oh, she's being beaten up. Oh my God. Oh my God. So
Yeah,
it's a hard job.
it is.
Doesn't pay well, by the way.
Oh, so now let's talk about another subject. Do you feel acting allows you to take the mask off or wear more masks on?
I have a completely different perception of acting, to be fair. Um, I feel that acting is one of my side hustles, and
Mhm.
it's more like a fun hobby, where I get paid nicely. And, especially with silly commercials or little roles here and there
Mhm.
in TV series, I am a professional. I've been doing this for 11 years. I've got one of the best agents and I'm good at what I do. So I just do
Yeah.
it. And I've got a
Yes.
weird face and that's it. Like, I'm
Mm.
not like, oh, I'm going to become another character. I don't care about any of that. I'm just looking at doing my job,
Doing your
making
job. Mhm.
making people laugh, getting paid, so
Mhm.
that I can afford to go on lavish holidays and XYZ. The
Yeah.
rest of it, I don't really care, to be honest. I don't look at it that deeply.
So how do you keep your self-worth from being tied to those external validations, like, the recognition from the industry and all those things?
I've given up on all of that.
Mm, mm.
I think it's such an egoistical, selfish perception of the path of acting. Um,
In
eh,
general, like,
yeah. At this stage in my career, the only thing I haven't done is that of like a leading role in a TV series or like a supporting lead, where I'm in every episode of a season. That's the only thing I haven't done. Other than that, I've done everything. So it's kind of like, what am I trying to prove if I have my face on billboards and everybody's congratulations, yay? Mm. If you need that external validation, you need to look inwards first, because
mm,
I
yes.
think a lot of actors are, in this hamster wheel, especially with, wannabe actors or people who are doing a lot of unpaid work. I'm a working actor. I
Mhm.
work every month. I book something, at least one job every single month, that keeps me going. And I don't need another job at the moment to financially support myself. Um, and the moment you look inwards and you need those external validations, you're vibrating desperate energy. And the
Yes.
universe, believe in this whole manifestation nonsense or
Mhm.
not, the universe does not like desperate energy.
Yes, yes. You were saying something about the competition that, it's a fact because there are other people from the industry that I've talked to, and they say, yeah, there is some competition, but whoever is very good is the one that will get the part. Do you believe that is true?
Yeah, 100%. Because for me as a producer and a writer, when I was casting for films, I'm looking at audition tapes. For example, we were casting for a role which was specific
Hmm.
or an Asian woman or a specific for a Latina woman. So I already have as a writer have a very specific look in my mind. It's the face, it's the eyes, it's the lips, everything. I see it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then when I'm receiving audition tapes, I may be surprised. Some blonde lady comes in and I'm like, "Oh," and I
Yes.
change the role for her. But I already know what I'm looking for. And the minute I see someone that looks the part and is also a good actor,
Actor, yeah.
I'm sold.
Hmm.
I don't need anything else. For me at this stage, I think at the next stage of producing, you're going to look at, IMDb rankings, Instagram followings, what jobs have they done, etc., etc. That's the next phase as well.
Yeah, yeah. Which plays a huge part, right?
I don't think so.
For you not, but I mean, in the industry in general, don't you think that?
Some say it does, some say it doesn't.
Mm,
Who knows? I think I've heard from directors many times. They'd be like, "I fought for you to get the role. They wanted someone else." I'm like, "Oh, okay, great. But what does that mean?" I don't know. Um, I have a very interesting perception of probabilities in life. So if some people talk about like, oh, 30%, 40%, I don't believe in any of that. It's rather a yes or a
or
no.
no? Mm.
I'm rather gonna get the job or I'm not gonna get the job. I do the audition and I forget about it.
Yeah,
Done.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because if you keep constantly thinking about it, it's that needy energy, right?
Yeah. How long have you been an actor?
20 years?
Oof.
Yeah.
And now you're a director and producer as well.
The last 3 or 4 years, yeah, yeah. I've done a feature film. I'm
Wow.
always, like experimenting with different things. Like I studied drawing and sculpting. So I was also writing novels, which were published in Greek and in Czech. And then when I gave birth to my daughter, I was so interested in kids' books. Because,
Hmm.
yeah, I wanted to navigate all those, things that I haven't seen written, like mental health, for kids. Uh,
Wow.
so I wrote a book series, 3 books. It's called Tiny Irma. Yeah. And I also illustrated myself because, the drawing.
Amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, I do a lot of things. I like to experiment. I like being creative.
Yeah.
So, you know, I started this podcast because I love talking with people. I love learning new things, or their stories and their journeys, and be able to find out things about myself, because I've always been struggling with mental health since childhood. Like I said it before, I felt that I was experiencing my first panic attack when I was, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old. Yeah, it was the same feeling as today. It's the same thing. So I don't know from where that came from, because I came in Greece when I was 3 years old. Maybe the fact that we changed our whole environment and we left all our family in the Czech Republic. Maybe that played a role. I don't know, but and yeah, I like experimenting. I like trying, and I like connecting with people. I love connecting with
Mm,
people. It gives
how
me
beautiful.
energy. Yeah, it's nice. It's nice, and I don't know. So, what's one belief about yourself that has changed the most since you started your creative journey as an actress, as a writer, producer?
One belief that changed what? Sorry,
Hmm. Hmm.
changed how I think of the industry or
Of yourself.
of myself. I think you just need to realize that the industry is a little messy.
Hmm.
People will talk about you. People will hate you. People will say negative things about you, but you always have to be kind. I'm
You
hearing
always.
from
Mm.
so many people weird gossips and rumors. Apparently, there's a director out there who told everyone he slept with me. I'm like, mate,
Oh.
you're shorter than me. Like, what? But then I hear these things and then I'm thinking, oh my God. And the old me in my early 20s would have kicked up a fuss. I would have tried to ruin his life
Ah.
somehow. But now I'm like, okay, next. If anybody likes to believe XYZ, whatever. But I always people who come into my DMs, I look at their spotlight, I look at their show reel, I'm trying to give advice. I'm very much hands-on, and I do a lot of like supporting and mentoring for people. I've run two um PA to producer master classes,
Uh-huh.
and I've reached out to people privately. I didn't really advertise this. It was like a few Zoom sessions where I told people how I got funding for a short film, how I did it from A to Z, from like funding to marketing.
Oh, which is a huge thing because people
Yes,
struggle all the time. They want to create a movie, and the fun
funding.
thing is always
Nobody knows how to get
no,
funding.
no, 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 no.
Short films are easy. Short film, you can get funding tomorrow. Feature films, I don't know how you do that. I'm yet to find out. But
Yeah.
you know, I just did that because I feel like the more you give, the more you're gonna receive.
Uh-huh.
I don't believe that, oh, if there was another person who's, I don't know, an actress and a similar look to me, if they get the role. No, if it's meant for me, it's meant for me anyways. Like whatever.
Yes, yes,
I don't
yes,
care. Be
yes.
nice to people in the industry.
Yeah,
And they will still chat shit about you. So I
yeah.
don't.
But who cares? So, how do you handle moments where your inner critique gets loud or it doesn't?
My inner critique doesn't get loud. I think the inner critique is usually anxiety.
Uh-huh.
But again, I think there is two things with the art being an artist. You can have imposter syndrome,
Hmm.
which a lot of people will get, even like famous people. I had it. I had booked a really massive job once, and I went on set, and the director, who's this like big deal, came to me. He knew my name. There was pictures of me on the wall. There was like 300 extras, and I was the lead. And I was just thinking, oh my God, like I don't deserve this. I'm not good enough for this. There should have been someone else. They made a mistake. Actually, maybe they watched someone else's show reel and they forgot, and then they picked me. No, they can't have done that. Your mind just goes into this
Mhm.
roller coaster of emotions,
Yes.
and then you start sabotaging.
Hmm.
This really exists. I remember my first feature film as a lead actress. I was sick. The next morning, I want to throw up. I was like panicking. I was like, looking at people like they want to argue me, like something's happening in my head.
Yeah.
Externally, everybody's laughing, smiling. I'm joking with people. Internally, I'm like, oh my God, he looked at me weird. Oh, maybe I did my scene really badly. They're judging me. imposter syndrome. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think this is the inner critic, because I believe personally that I'm a really good actress and I've got a really weird face. I've got a really deep, unique voice. Everything that people might think, oh my God, that's horrible. I love those about me. Even, back in the day, people used to find me online when I was a TV reporter and be like, she's a because she's got such a deep voice.
Oh, jeez.
But then I booked my first voice commercial and I got paid a ton of money and I was like, "Ha!
You have a beautiful.
Okay." Oh,
No, no.
you've got a beautiful voice, by the way.
No.
Very deep, very beautiful voice. But, those unique things about you that people might make fun of or you might criticize about yourself is what's gonna get you paid.
Yes, yes. And getting out of your comfort zone, right? Because, I'm always feeling better in my comfort zone. But I was talking with Tiffany Stores, another great actress, and she said, comfort zones are dead zones, which I
Mhm.
found amazing because nothing happens, in your
What a
comfort
quote.
zone. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's amazing. It's in her book because she wrote a perfect book. Um, and so, what does success mean to you? Uh,
Mhm. Oh, this is a really interesting one. I was just talking about this with my fiance last night. Success to me means TV series, leading or supporting leading role. That's one thing I haven't ticked in my 11-year-long career, and it's something that I'm yearning for, that I'm, you know, trying to rationalize. I think a lot of people might say, happy home, happy family, blah, blah. No, no, I want this. This for me is success. And if I tick that, I can move on to the next thing.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but to
Well,
me, that's it.
really personal. Like, you know, I'm sure it's somewhere around the corner waiting
I
for.
know. I feel it coming, hopefully. Because I've done the few lines here and there in really, really big TV series, and it's fun. You go there for the day, you eat amazing food.
Uh-huh.
But I want to be series regular.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
I want to be called back, hopefully.
Yes, yes. You will. I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will.
Thank you.
So, another question, what impact do you think that social media has on people's sense of identity and self-worth? Because for you, I understand that you've found your balance and you know how to navigate through all those kind of stuff, but what do you think about other people nowadays, and especially younger people?
Horrible.
Mm,
I suffer from this myself. I've got a timer on my phone about how much social media I can consume. I've got a 1 hour limit daily. And when
mhm,
it comes to the end of it, I'm kind of like, okay, give me another 15. It's the scrolling. You're getting this, you know, instant hit of dopamine and you're just consuming all this nonsense people are producing, stupid things, rather than reading a nice book or
mhm.
watching a nice documentary, which, to be fair, I've read this research paper the other day by a psychiatrist, and she was saying that we need to stop judging people who scroll. And guess what? Um, there are people with anxiety,
Mhm.
and when you're in an anxious state and just before bed, people say, oh, no screen time. Actually, that dopamine hit is kind of useful for you to calm down and just forget about all the
For me, it
stress of
works.
life. You're just like,
Mhm.
nah, silly things. You don't need to be always serious and read
No,
like
no,
a
no.
very philosophical book or something. So there needs to be a limit. I'm terrible with, as soon as I wake up, I start scrolling, sadly, and I'm
Uh-huh.
trying to reduce that. I'm doing it 15 minutes every morning now. I can't help it. But guess what? I'm not going to penalize myself and hate myself for it.
No, 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 no.
The second thing is about sharing too much. I was also the kind of person everywhere I went. "Nee,
Oh,
nee, look at me, I'm having fun." If I don't have an Instagram story about me having fun, I'm not having fun. People need to know I'm having fun. Okay, why?
yeah.
Why would people need to know? And then, some might think, okay, people might think that I'm a loser staying at home and doing nothing. And by me telling people I'm going to all these cool places,
Mm.
I feel validation.
Yes, yes.
There we go. Then we go back to the same question of internal validation. Why do we seek that validation? The thumbs up, the likes. Oh, I got 1,000 likes on my last
Yes.
picture. I'm closing all of my likes. I don't want to see how many likes I get
Mm,
for
mm,
pictures.
mm.
It's horrendous.
Yeah. It's a vicious cycle, you know? Yeah, it, when you use it just to connect with people, it's great. When you fall into the trap to start, competing, and it's a whole another thing,
Mm,
which can be good
no,
in any way. So, is there one mask that you're still trying to take off?
not really. I think I'm a very brutally honest person, like very direct, very abrupt person, which is very much Turkish, I think. It's just
Mm,
like my culture. I have kind of um dialed it down because I've been living in the UK for 17 years.
yeah.
People don't really appreciate that in the UK. I'll give you an example. So I went to a Turkish party, and a friend of ours showed up, and a friend of mine next to me said, "Oh, how's it going? You look fat. Did you gain weight?" But to me, I understand what he's saying
Yeah, yeah,
because
because in Greece, we say the same thing, yeah.
he's showing concern and honesty. But if you said this to a British friend in a British environment, people be like, "Oh, called her fat." Oh, like, no, we don't have that. We're a bit more abrupt.
Mm,
Do I have a mask? Not usually.
no,
I just say things as is.
mm,
And I I think I'm a very confident person. I do a lot of self-worth exercises daily. I look in the mirror, tell myself I love myself and I'm a queen, and I'm doing these like visualizations of me walking with lions next to me. A lot of weird stuff that I've learned over the years to battle my anxiety, and it works. Like, I'm genuinely feel blessed to be me.
that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So what are you up to now?
Right now, I've had so many auditions that I'm kind of like, it's too much. So fingers crossed. I've recently built a new business. So I'm
Oh,
kind of hopeful about that. It's called Sleep Rich.
sleep rich?
Yeah.
Sounds like
So it's a YouTube channel and a TikTok. For some reason, TikTok has gone viral. I do meditations, affirmations, and guided visualizations.
I love
On
those.
there.
Mm.
I think for TikTok, we're only focusing on affirmations, like 1 minute long affirmation videos. I say something and then you have to repeat
Very
it. So it
repetitive.
would be like, I have prosperity in life. I have prosperity in life. Universe is bringing me my prayers, like all these things, like repetitions. Whereas the YouTube is going to be more focused on meditations,
Mhm.
dealing with everything. And I want to build a brand where there's a meditation video for every single thing. Like, you
There
have
should be.
meditation for anxiety, to manifest love, to for 5 minute quick meditation in the morning, 5 minute quick meditation before bed, 10 minute, 20 minute, 30 minute, everything you can imagine. I'm writing, producing, filming, recording, everything.
Wonderful, wonderful.
So yeah, I'm trying to do something where I add a bit of positivity into people's lives. Also, I'm trying to see whether if I can make money from YouTube.
Mhm, mhm.
Two very opposite goals.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow. Very nice things, very nice things. So when people look back on your life's work, what do you hope they'll feel or remember?
I don't know. I think people shouldn't really be worried about me per se, but if they can feel a certain type of way by watching my films or reading my work, and have some realizations about themselves, that's great. Um, I don't care if they remember me or not, because I feel like in 100 years, my house will be gone, every clothing item, everything that I have, it will be owned by someone else, and I'll be, I don't know, soil somewhere.
Dust in the wind.
I'm not that bothered about that. But yeah.
Yeah. So, Yasmin, it's been so nice talking to you.
Thank
It
you.
was
Thank
an
you. You too.
awesome conversation. It was nice to getting to know you, and I hope to see you soon.
You too. Come to London.
Great, great. Thank you for being here. As we say, ego was here, you were here, and that's enough.